barely adequate. Is what I
Holding on by my fingernails.
Welcome back to the Cold War, episode 303.
Yeah.
Cuban Revolution. At the end of our last episode, Ray, we talked about Batista. 1958 is losing support across the board. Businesses, the Catholic Church, even the United States government are pulling all of their support from him. His brutality and his attempt to crush the riots is growing. And listen, I kind of get this. If you're the legitimate, quote unquote, government or regime of a country and people are rioting, your job is to put down the riots.
Yeah.
Your job is to crush
Maintain
the riots.
peace.
That's what every government would do. Doesn't matter how legitimate or illegitimate, how democratic or autocratic or whatever. If there are violent protests, violent riots, you send in people to stop it and shut it down.
Right.
The question is, when does this become a losing proposition? When do you realize that you're just making it worse by doing that? Every time you shoot a protester, you create another 10. It's a bit like trying to crush ISIS or Al-Qaeda in the last 20 years, right? It's like
you just motivate.
You bomb a terrorist, you create 10 more terrorists.
Exactly. You're just motivating others to join the cause.
So from the early days of Castro's revolution, whenever there was talk about the eventual collapse of the Batista regime, the thing that people always wanted to do was call a general strike. And general strikes, I think, are a great thing if you can pull them off. Like I keep saying to my son Taylor, who lives in LA, when he's talking about Trump's administration and what's going to happen over there, I keep saying, like, the people could shut it down any day they wanted to just by calling a general strike. A general strike across the country, everyone just walks out and says, we're not going to work anymore until this bullshit stops.
Yeah.
You would bring the country to its knees instantly, but that's not happening for a number of reasons. Number one, you don't have a functioning union system anymore to really do that. Reagan and his successors managed to crush that.
Gutted.
Secondly, people are living hand to mouth. People can't afford to go on strike.
Exactly.
Everyone would starve to death and be out on the street within a week.
Yeah.
So they need money coming in. I mean, they're not wealthy podcasters like us.
Not everybody can do this.
Rolling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Swimming in,
like
Olympic-sized pools full of gold coins, like Scrooge McDuck, every day like us. I mean,
right.
We are, the top of the food chain when it comes to,
we're unique.
Capitalist success.
I don't think anybody would argue with the statement. We're pretty unique. I'm going to let that.
We're unique.
We're right there.
Yeah, we're special.
Anyway.
But in Cuba, the folk memory was that it was a strike that had brought down Machado in 1933. True. And that they needed to have another strike. You needed to have a massive strike that would end Batista's government. And it would also involve sabotage and selective assassination and outbreaks of generalized violence that would develop into a full-on urban insurrection. And there was a lot of support for this in different revolutionary camps. And Castro was genuinely against it. Yeah. He didn't think that was the successful approach in this case, basically because he felt it would get crushed. The strike would get crushed, and then it would not only hamper the movement, it would set them back because
absolutely
it would look weak. Good people would die, money, time, energy would be wasted. So there was a guy called Faustino Perez, who was one of the leaders of the strike and civic resistance movement in Havana. He went to Castro's camp in March of 1958 to discuss the strike project. He thought the time was ripe for it, and Castro was against it. But
Yeah.
it wasn't just his people. Like, these are other revolutionary groups that are pushing for this, and Castro's level of authority is not so strong at this point that he can tell the other revolutionary groups what they should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, he's not there yet. I mean, he's like you said, he's one of many. He can say no, but if they go ahead and they succeed, suddenly he's on the outside. Again, what is a leader without a pack? A guy taking a walk. So he'll go along with it, but he's like, doesn't feel like the right time. But if y'all are going to do this, then I'm on board. But I'm just telling you now, I'm not putting any bets that this is going to work. But you're going to do it, so let's do it.
They also didn't get the support of the Communist Party at this stage.
Yeah.
The Communist Party had probably the largest workers' movement in Cuba at the time.
Yeah.
And the strike organizers didn't have them on board. The communists also thought the strikes would fail.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that a senior official of the Communist Party went to the Sierra to warn Castro that the strike leaders had overestimated their strength.
Yeah.
But Castro felt he had no choice but to go along with it because they were just determined to go ahead with it anyway. And he and Perez signed a manifesto called the Total War Against Tyranny.
TWAT.
That called for a strike and
Sorry?
twat. The twat manifesto. And declared that the revolutionary struggle had entered its final stage. The idea was that this strike would be the final crushing blow.
Yes.
And it also the manifesto outlined the political plans for the post-Batista period, naming Manuel Urrutia Leo, a highly respected lawyer and judge, I think, from Santiago as the provisional president once they ousted Batista.
Yeah.
He was sort of an anti-communist liberal that would get a lot of support in Cuba and also probably be acceptable to the United States, which they knew was going to be important.
Yes.
He had traveled, Urrutia, had traveled to the United States, to Washington a few months earlier to rally support, letting them know that if they got rid of Batista, he would be the guy that would be running things. In May of 1957, he had presided over a case that involved 151 men charged with anti-government activities, 22 of whom had been part of the Grandma landing.
Right.
And he ruled that they should be released as they were acting within their constitutional rights. Right. So he was a judge that was friendly to the revolutionary movement, which is why Castro was willing to support his presidency after Batista was gone.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, so now, excuse me. So the thing is, you're right. I mean, they've made this decision. They're going to go forward with it. They've got their, I don't want to say figurehead, but they've got someone who sounds like he's a true Cuban patriot. They've got their leader now. But they immediately start making mistakes because, one, you just said a second ago, they're not going to include the communists because they don't trust the communists. Remember, there is a Cold War going on. And then some of the other parties start to fall out. The Auténticos fall out, or the Ordoxicos fall out as well because they're like, no, this isn't right. So they pull back their support. So this is becoming almost a half-hearted measure. And there are other groups like the Liberation Council. They want Felipe Pazos as their provincial president. So there's not a lot of agreement going on here, but again, something is going to happen. Castro is going to back it to the best of his ability. Now the thing is to try to come up with an actual date to launch this entire thing. So it's moving forward, but it seems to be getting weaker or something less than stronger by the day.
So the date of the general strike was set for April 9th. There were going to be bombs exploding in Havana leading up to that. But then, as you hinted, I think in the last episode or earlier this episode, there was a kidnapping that took place. You want to tell the story?
So right before the strike, there is going to be a very important race, an international a championship race in the streets of Havana. And one of the Argentinian drivers, he was a champion driver, Juan Manuel Fangio, was going to be in the race, and everybody's, well, the people that actually have the time and the money to care about a race are looking forward to this. It's going to be on TV. It's going to be awesome. Days or a day before the race, this driver is kidnapped by I don't know if it's the July movement people, or if
it was.
It was. Okay.
So yeah, it was Castro's guys.
Castro's.
Yeah.
So they kidnap him. They're very nice. They're very respectful. They go up to him. I think he's in a bar and they have a gun. Please come with us, and he is not able to participate in the race, but they do let him watch the race on TV. I thought that was very nice. They only hold him for 26 hours. Then they let him go. Faustino Perez sent him a note of apology. However, because he is kidnapped, this news is spread throughout the world. And the world, the wider world in general, starts to have more of an idea that something's going on in Cuba. There's a lot of anarchy. There's something going on. But at the very least, the people of Cuba, they now know that Batista's police look weak because this driver was kidnapped, held, and then released, and the police couldn't do fuck all about it. So again, it's a propaganda thing. It's a way to get attention. There's probably more to it than that. But again, it's just another example of Batista not having his iron fist up the ass, if you will, of Cuba.
Yeah. So the race's name was Fangio.
Fangio, thank you.
Not Fangio. He was known as El Cueco or El Maestro. He was like one of the greatest Formula One drivers. I know nothing about Formula One driving, but even I know about Fangio, man. He's one of the greatest Formula One drivers ever. At the time of his retirement,
right,
he held the record for the most wins, pole positions, fastest laps, and podium finishes.
Wow.
He was an absolute rock star in Formula One racing at the time, like absolutely top of his game when he gets kidnapped.
Right.
So Batista had paid a lot of money to bring the so it wasn't Formula One, but it was the Cuban Grand Prix in Havana. It was sort of their equivalent of the Formula One.
Right.
And this guy was the most famous car racer in it. And to show how useless the Batista regime was at this stage, they went and kidnapped him. He was treated very well. He was taken to 3 separate houses, had his own bedroom with a TV where he was allowed to watch the race that went ahead. They were trying. I think the rebels thought they might have to cancel the race, which would be very embarrassing. I went ahead anyway with him not racing, like the most famous racer not racing in it.
Right, stands out.
And there was a disastrous crash during the race, and the race was called off after that.
Shit.
And then he was allowed to go. He said, well, this is one more adventure. If what the rebels did was in a good cause, then I, as an Argentine, accept it. He was obviously, Che Guevara was also Argentinian. I'm not sure if they got together and talked about that at all. I looked it up. I couldn't see any mention of him and Che swapping ideas if they had friends in common. But so later on in life, he came to Australia, actually, is what you want to know. But he died in the mid-90s.
Oh. Did you say his name was the Maestro? Because it's kind of weird. There's 3 of us now. I didn't know there was. I thought it was just you and I called the Maestro. I didn't know there was another one. So he's a part of it.
Well, I'm the Podfather.
Right. Okay.
You're the Maestro.
Okay. So he's a part of elite group. So good on him.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Yeah.
Where were we?
So I did want to mention his Australian connection. Please. So in Australia, if you're going fast, we say you're fanging it.
Oh,
I was fanging it down the street.
I'm a fanging lovemaker.
Fanging
different
is an abbreviation of Fangio's name.
Right.
Fangio, fanging it. And it was used in Mad Max. Fanging it is used in Mad Max. So There you go. So there's the Australian connection of Fangio fanging it.
He'll live forever.
Yeah. 'Cause of
So
Mad Max.
if someone's camming it, what would you, if you had to like guess? What do you think? Yeah.
Just getting it wrong at every point.
But doing
just
it in
making
style.
lots of
Yeah.
bad decisions throughout the course of his life.
Gloriously so.
So back to the big strike. So the movement's National Student Front, led by a guy called Ricardo Alarcón, occurred a shutdown of all the state schools.
Oh shit, this is real.
Today is the day of liberation, they announced on a broadcast April 9th from the radio station. Throughout Cuba at this very moment, the final struggle to overthrow Batista has begun.
Going down.
But
oh shit.
Batista's police and army were prepared. They knew that this was going to take place by the sounds of it.
Right.
The urban revolutionary movement activists didn't have enough weapons to stave off the police and the army, and it was crushed.
Yeah.
The whole strike attempt was crushed almost before it began, and this created a lot of angst and antagonism inside of the movement. A lot of the people inside of Castro's group that were against the strike were furious that it had got ahead in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, this just makes them look bad. They like you said, they didn't have enough weapons. They weren't organized enough. They didn't let the communists in. Two other parties backed out because they didn't agree. I mean, this was a half-hearted, measured shit show. And this is something that Batista actually got right. His men, I think they killed at least 50 people. There were radio reports of 50 people dead in various streets. So again, this thing was shut down hard. And now, like you were just alluding to, Castro, everybody else, but certainly Castro now has egg on their face, and they look weaker than they have in a very long time.
Yeah. He writes a letter to Celia Sánchez, his aide in Santiago at this point, saying, I am the supposed leader of this movement, and in the eyes of history, I must take responsibility for the stupidity of others, but I am a shit who can decide nothing at all.
He doesn't
So I
hold
think
back.
this was sort of I think this was a turning point for Fidel.
Yeah.
Where he realized that, like, in order for this thing to be successful, and this goes over into when he's running the country later on too.
Yeah.
That he needs to trust his own judgment. And
exactly.
There are risks in letting other people push him into this or that, or supporting this or that.
Happened before.
There was a meeting held in the mountains to analyze what had gone wrong. It was very, very tense. I read Che Guevara's diary notes on it.
Right.
He delivered himself a stinging indictment of the strike organizers, accusing them of sectarianism and of not including the communists, and of military incompetence in organizing the militia without training.
Shit show.
So yes,
yeah,
changes were made to the leadership. Several members, including Faustino Perez, were transferred out of the city into the Sierras. So it was a bit of a setback in some ways, but the revolution is continuing. And in May, Batista decided he was going to make a major military offensive that was called Operation End Fidel. Now, I think you've made it when there is a major military operation
with your name
that has your name in it. Yeah.
Right. Like you've had several operations, get rid of Ray. Oh God, why did you put Ray in my way? I mean, so, no, it's an honor. It's an honor, but you're right. And we've seen this a billion times in larger wars. Someone makes a move, it fails, and now the other side goes, okay, they're weak. At this moment, they're weaker than they've been in a long time. It's time for me to counter attack. And exactly right. He has 10,000 soldiers with armor where it can go, artillery, aviation. They're looking for Castro's base. They start in the northern part of the mountains. They're trying to come down, wipe everything out. Raul's camp in the north gets bombed several times. So again, this is I think he realizes, like everybody else, that his time is running short if things do not change. Well, here's a wonderful opportunity to change them and put them, right his ship of state. He goes hard after Castro. But like you said in the first show, mountains are mountains for a reason. They're big ass things. There's plenty of places to hide. Castro doesn't have to win. He just has to not lose. And he sets about doing that.
Yeah, you can bomb the shit out of enemy camps, but you don't know what the results of that are unless you send guys in to find bodies.
Exactly.
And Batista was doing bombing campaigns, sending guys in to find the bodies, and the guys weren't coming back out.
Right.
So
is that bad? No.
Castro told some visiting journalists, every entrance to the Sierra Maestra is like the pass at Thermopylae.
Damn.
He had it locked down.
Right. And he knew it.
This campaign.
Sorry.
Yeah, he knew it. Yeah, I mean, he knew what he was doing at this stage. He's had a couple of years of training on the job here. He's got it worked out.
Yeah.
Whatever else you think about Fidel Castro, the guy was hella smart.
Yeah, right.
He was he was smart. He was focused. He was dedicated. He was absolutely convinced of his own destiny.
Yes,
that this was going to work and he was going to pull this off. But he reminds me of Julius Caesar. Like, this guy had plans. He liked to organize. He liked to think through stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got this shit locked down. So the Operation End Fidel went on for 2 months and failed completely.
Oh.
And in fact, if anything, it was probably a turning point in the collapse of Batista, because he threw everything he had at destroying the rebellion, and it failed completely, and everybody knew it failed completely.
Yeah, he shot his wad, and it went wide. I don't know if I'm mixing metaphors there, but yeah, in July of 1958, an entire battalion was trapped in a narrow valley. They had to surrender. They were it was like 220 soldiers were captured, disarmed, turned over mercifully to the Red Cross, whereas Batista probably would have had them shot. In August, this happens again to 100 men. So like you said, Baptista's sending them in. They're not coming out, or if they do come out, it's through the Red Cross, and they don't have their weapons anymore. And or
their pants.
Or their pants, because Castro needs them. Castro knows he could have literally, when he retired, he could have taken tour groups up in the mountains because he knew them that well, and so does his men. And so he's able to again take in a disadvantage, which is being in a very hostile environment, and turn it to his advantage. And I'm going to let you tell this part. I think you've got this. There's the psychological warfare that he conducts on the officers of his enemy by simply writing them letters.
No, I don't have that.
Okay.
You tell that story.
Okay. So like you said, this goes on for 2 months, and he's writing to the officers of the opposing forces, to the enemy commander, General Cantillo. Remember that name, Cantillo. Castro writes, after all, we are compatriots, not your enemies. Perhaps when this offensive is over, if we are still alive, I will write to you again to clarify my thinking and to tell you what I think you and the army can do for the benefit of Cuba. And he writes to others guys. He goes like, oh man, remember when we were in the university together? I never could have pictured us on the opposite side of a war. This is crazy. Well, anyways, I'm not asking for anything. Good luck with he's fighting this guy. I sincerely wish you good luck with everything, and maybe one day we can work our differences out. But until then, hey, keep your chin up. And if I see you, I'm going to make your men surrender and take your weapons. So again, he is fucking with these guys, and it's driving crazy. Che's like, why are you being so nice in these letters? Fuck these guys. They should die. And Castro's like, I'm just screwing with them. I am literally, while I'm capturing their men, I'm being nice to the officers. It's called dividing and conquering. And he's doing a brilliant job of it.
Yeah. Well told. So the final stretch is the last 6 months of 1958. Mm-hmm. He sends some of his commanders, including Che and Camilo Cienfuegos, who I have up on my wall here, out. Got to figure out how to turn my camera around so you can see my poster up on my wall. He sends them out to take the western areas of Cuba.
It's time.
But there are rebel forces, independent guerrillas, that are fighting in the Escambres out that way. He goes to bring them into the fold, and basically they just start spreading out. Around about August, Che goes, Camilo goes. They've got about 230 men as a joint force. They arrive in their destination sort of August, September, and then Castro starts coming down from his mountain headquarters,
Like Moses,
around about October, November.
Yeah.
And he marches towards Santiago. Raul advances from the north. The fighting continues right through that 6 months of the year. Urrutia, the judge, flies into a rebel airstrip in the Sierra Maestra in early December to get ready for the final moments of the revolution, and then they take Havana.
Yeah.
Cienfuegos, actually, he bypasses Havana at first, moves towards Pina del Rio. Che captures Santa Clara, which is sort of a big deal at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And here's what he says in his diary, because I grabbed this bit. I remember an episode that shows the spirit of our forces in those final days. I had admonished a soldier because he was sleeping in the midst of battle, and he replied that he had been disarmed for accidentally firing his weapon. I responded with my customary dryness. Get yourself another rifle by going disarmed to the front line, if you're up to it. In Santa Clara, while I was speaking to the wounded in the Hospital de Sangre, a dying man touched my hand and said, "Do you remember, Commander? In the Remedios, you sent me to find a weapon, and I earned it here." He was the fighter who had accidentally fired his weapon. He died a few minutes later, and I think he was content for having proven his courage. Such was our rebel army.
Yeah, hey, you motivate the men any way you can. Can I touch on something you said a second ago about Castro not learning that if he's going to do it, it's going to be up to him. He's trusted other people. They've let him down. They've made him look foolish. They've gotten men killed unnecessarily. And it happened again recently when they tried their general strike. So in December, that you mentioned a minute ago, Urrutia, the provisional president, flies in and he's got a consignment of weapons. But when he and Castro meet, Castro is cool and aloof to him. This was Castro's way of nipping in the bud any illusion this guy might have had that he would be exercising real power. Look, you seem like a decent bloke. You've been more than fair when you were a judge. Just in case you turn out to be a giant asshole, when this is all over with, you can sit there in the chair, but I'm going to have the power, because he's learned he just can't trust anybody as much as he wants to. And so this guy is getting the cool version of Castro because he's just keeping him at arm's length.
Yeah, I think it was Castro's way of letting the guy know that he was a figurehead.
Right. Yeah.
We need somebody who's going to be acceptable to the United States.
Exactly.
But really, just so we both know who's running things. Yeah.
So there's no confusion. Sorry. Yeah.
It's like our relationship. I mean,
Yeah.
you're the nice, cheery George Costanza one that people like to listen to.
Yeah.
But we all know who's running things.
We know who's
the
fist is where.
mean and cranky one.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I've grown accustomed.
Well, we could have gone on and on with military stuff, but I just want to get to the end of this, I figured. So,
Okay.
Christmas Eve, 1958, Batista dedicated a huge sculpture of Jesus
Oh, wow.
on a hilltop overlooking Havana Harbour.
Oh, that's nice.
The sculpture was by Gilma Madeira, the same sculptor who had created Marti's bust for a mountain peak.
Right.
I think Batista maybe thought, maybe if I do this, Jesus will
save me.
Take
the wheel, Jesus. I don't know.
Yeah. This is called the Christ of Havana statue. I have a photo of it in front of me. It's made out of white Carrara marble.
Nice. It sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar. a Renaissance show. We've been talking a lot about Carrara marble
Yeah.
on the Michelangelo series.
Yeah.
It's about 20 meters or 66 feet high, which includes a 10-foot base. It weighs approximately 320 tons.
Damn.
It was built from 67 blocks of marble
Insane.
that had been brought from Italy after being personally blessed by Pope Pius VII, a.k.a. the Nazi Pope.
Blessed
Or
marble.
the fascist Pope.
Blessed marble is the
Yeah.
best marble. I think you'll find.
It is the best.
It is,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. It's still standing in Havana,
Mhm.
and there you go.
We should go.
Locals say the statue is intended to depict Christ holding an imaginary cigar in his right hand
That sounds right.
because he's standing like this,
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
doing a benediction, but he's supposed to have a cigar in that. And his other hand is like this, so they say it's a mojito in his left and
Ah,
a cigar in his right. You know,
Jesus knows how to party. He knows how to have a good time.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Right.
his shoes are modeled on flip-flops that the sculptor was wearing when she was living in Italy.
Wow.
But if you look at his face, he's got sort of I don't know if you've got a picture of it in front of
I'm
you, but he's
about
got
to.
sort of an inch. And I won't do a screenshot on this because then I'll have to get 50 emails from you going, I don't know how to edit this in. He's
Unnecessarily.
got a sort of
Yeah.
He's got a strange multiracial face. He's not your typical Jesus. He's not a white Jesus. He's sort
Right.
of
Oh, that's got to
a
come
little
down
bit
then.
mixed race Jesus.
Right.
Well, the marble's white, so
Oh,
you've got
you
that.
know, good point. Good point. Oh yeah, he's got several. Yeah, that's a random selection of DNA going on in that face.
Mm.
I find that offensive.
Deliberately, apparently, by the sculptor to
Right.
make him look multiracial.
Good
Anyway,
for him.
obviously didn't save Batista. A week later, at noon on New Year's Eve, Batista retrieved his passport and ordered a plane to be readied.
Yes.
And on New Year's Eve, he departed the country from the airfield at Camp Columbia with family and friends.
Right.
So, where did he go, Ray? Where did Batista seek refuge?
I know he went to a fellow dictator. I'm trying to remember which country.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I just
Yeah.
forget we did that, and I'll tell the story.
All right.
So he hopped across the water from Havana to Santo Domingo, in the Dominican Republic, where his friend Leonidas Trujillo, the dictator of the Dominican Republic, gave him refuge. And he took all of his money with him, or all of the money in Cuba.
Wow. What a cashier's check?
Um,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've got some notes on it later, but I think it was the equivalent of, I think it was about $400 million he took, which is the equivalent of a couple of $1 billion today.
Good God.
He took with him. So I'm going to go.
Yeah.
That's like you separate from your wife and you're
Right.
like,
Look.
well, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave. I'm leaving you the house, but I'm taking everything in the bank account,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So good luck paying the mortgage.
And everything else. Yeah. Took the damn bank with him. Wow.
Yeah. So that will obviously have implications for Castro's regime. It's bad enough that, the country's in the state it is, but there's no money left because he literally had his men stacking crates of money on the plane as he was leaving.
Isaac could take off.
So that's the end politically of Fulgencio Batista, a man who had been involved in Cuban power for decades at this point. Once said he had admired Franklin Roosevelt and kept a bust of Abraham Lincoln on his desk.
Yeah.
He'd been deserted by the Americans, deserted by the people, both the wealthy elite as well as the working classes, the peasant classes of Cuba, and had not solved Cuba's problems had only made them worse. So it was about 10 a.m. on the first day of 1959 when the Cuban media began to report that Fulgencio Batista had fled. People took to the streets and danced. Cars blasted their horns. Churches rang their bells. Ruby Hart, the American journalist who was living in Havana, working in Havana at the time, I read her book, and this is what she had to say. The first indication I had that the government was fleeing was the remark of a guest at a New Year's dinner party in the Havana Riviera Hotel. He said he had seen a group of cars loaded with women and children in suitcases under escort of SIM, the Military Intelligence Service, enter Camp Columbia military headquarters near his home. For several weeks, opposition to President Batista had been growing. Having covered the violent political scene in Cuba since the early 30s, I'd been contending that the breaking point was near, but neither the foreign press nor my underground had agreed with me. The news spread like wildfire. A number of the most hated figures of the Batista regime went into hiding. Some went to Latin American embassies, some flew to the United States, others escaped on their yachts. It was everyone for himself. The well-organised youthful underground marched into the Havana police stations and seized control. There was no resistance. The same thing was occurring all over the island as the radio broadcast the news. However, the majority of the people slept on until daybreak. I drove to my office at 7 a.m. through streets on which few people were abroad, although automobiles filled with the youthful members of the underground were speeding here and there. It reminded me of another morning in August 1933 when Phil, my late husband, and I had driven through the same streets after the Machado regime fell. Like Batista, Machado with his officials had fled. I wondered if the streets would soon be filled with howling mobs bent on vengeance, looting and destruction, as on that day. It was still quiet near my office, which is only a block from the presidential palace, though, as in 1933, small groups were discussing the news. By 10 o'clock on New Year's morning, 1959, the mobs began gathering in downtown Havana. Shouting groups broke the parking meters to get the coins.
Right.
The luxurious casinos of the Hotel Sevilla Biltmore and the Hotel Plaza were wrecked. But the Castro followers, who now called themselves the militia, moved in and scattered the mobs with gunfire. All officers of the demoralized National Police were under arrest, and the hunt was on for every official and collaborator of the Batista government. Automobiles filled with the new militia raced through the streets. Some of the hunted were arrested in their homes, others fled. Some sold their lives dearly. Gunfire was heard all over the city. Down at the other end of the island, Fidel Castro and his troops, as well as his younger brother Major Raúl Castro, who had been fighting north of Santiago de Cuba, moved into that city. The 5,000 soldiers there surrendered without firing a shot. Santiago de Cuba, which had been a stronghold of rebel support, went wild with joy.
I don't know how much detail we'll go into next time or whatever, but things don't go exactly the way Castro wants them to, because he had been in talks with General, what's his name? Where did it go? Looking right at it.
Cantillos.
Yeah. So what it is they were going to work things out where Castro was going to have more say, but then there's a new junta government set up with General Castillo in charge. He goes to the palace. And basically, Castro is completely left out of this. He is pissed yet again. And he gets on a radio and he makes this short speech. He says, revolution, yes. Military coup, no. Coup d'etat behind the backs of the people? No. Coup d'etat in agreement with the Batista? No. Taking victory away from the people? No. He asked the people to prepare for a general strike to force the unconditional surrender of Batista's army. So this is over, and yet it's not over. There's still, all these people with guns, and they're trying to literally form a new government with the blessing of the United States, and Castro is not to be a part of it.
Yeah, so when Batista left, he left some of his guys in control, supposedly. Cantillos is in control of the army. The head of the Supreme Court is in charge of the government.
Mm-hmm.
And Castro orders a general strike. Now is the time for a general strike when he has the situation more under his control.
Yeah.
He jumps on the radio and says, "The tyrant Batista has fled. We will not brook any outcome other than the triumph of the revolution."
Nice.
So he is now in a position where he's going to make sure that what happens next happens on his terms, nobody else's terms.
Well said.
He has all of the power, and he's going to make sure that there is no opportunity for another illegitimate regime of the rich and powerful elites of Cuba manage to squeeze out of this yet again and take control.
Exactly.
So he orders Che and Camilo Cienfuegos, his commanders in central Cuba, to advance on Havana. He orders Raul to march on Guantanamo. He marches down to Santiago and takes control of that. By nightfall, they are taking control of all of the major cities. One commentator wrote, "Columns of bearded rebels were literally swept off their feet by overjoyed people." At Santiago's Central Square. And by the way, I don't think we've ever talked about the beard thing. Have we ever talked about why they had beards?
We touched on it a couple of episodes ago. And for this episode, there was a discussion about shaving that Castro in the end nixed. But we did have one conversation several episodes ago.
Right. So just to remind people, the reason they had beards was to make it harder for spies to infiltrate their ranks.
Because you'd have to grow.
If you were part of, to be part, because the army were clean shaven.
Yeah.
And to be part of the revolutionary movement, you had to have been spending months in the mountains growing a beard.
Right.
So anyone who rocked up that didn't have a beard, you knew they were the new guys, right?
They
so
got a
you
side
kept
eye.
an eye on them. Yeah. It's a pretty simple strategy, right? How do you tell the new guys from the old guys? Yeah. Well, it's the length of their beard. The length of the beard determines how long you've been part of the movement, right?
Yeah, they're going to try and just say no bathing, but that didn't work for obvious reasons. They went back to the beards, but it's an instant recognize. And again, it's another Castro simple answer to a complex problem of infiltration.
Yeah, and he kept it for the rest of his life.
Exactly,
as a sign that, like, he wore his fatigues for the rest of his life. He kept the beard for the rest of his life, and he said, "We're still fighting the revolution. You know,
Long live the revolution.
We're still under attack.
Yeah,
from the United States, and they're still trying to overthrow our government, overthrow the people's revolution." So he wore his revolutionary fatigues, right until the end, pretty much. Occasionally put on a tracksuit after he retired.
Well, he just wanted to look badass like a mobster. Yeah.
So in Santiago, Fidel addressed a crowd of hundreds of thousands of people, and as would become his custom, he spoke for hours. When it was transcribed, his speech was longer than 12,000 words.
Had a lot to say.
30 single-spaced pages, but he didn't have a single note in front of him when he spoke.
Just riffing. Just think if he was a rapper. Oh my God, he could have just
podcaster.
He
would have made a great podcaster.
Yes, he would have.
You know, when I started podcasting and I made a list of people I wanted to interview, he was on the list.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He'd still be talking to him.
Never got to talk to him.
Or he'd still be talking on that episode. Yeah. He had a lot. Well, he's in the mountains for 10 years. He was in the mountain for 2 years, so he had a lot of things to say to get off his chest.
Yeah. He'd been thinking about what he was going to say all that time.
Yeah.
We have arrived, he said. Then he made an announcement that took everyone by surprise and has long since been forgotten. He declared that Havana was no longer the capital of the nation.
Oh, wow.
From that point on, Santiago would be the capital.
Wow.
It had been the capital in the days of the Spanish conquest and was the capital of his own home province.
Mm-hmm.
So that made people of Santiago happy. But it was more a question of expediency, I think, because at the moment he said that, Havana was still in control by Batista's forces.
Right.
So, he said, well, now
move.
Santiago's control, but it didn't last long. By the time Che and Cienfuegos took over Havana, it went back to being the capital.
Makes sense.
But he gave this huge speech and talked for hours about the changes they were going to make to Cuba, what they were going to do. And that was the beginning of him articulating to the entire population in extreme amounts of detail what they were going to do in terms of making life better for the people in Cuba.
He's going to make Cuba great again.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, I want to point out that at this point in time, a lot of the American media, including the New York Times, even progressive elements within the CIA, looked favorably upon Castro. The Eisenhower government had stopped supporting Batista, and there was some talk that they had deliberately allowed Castro to win. They weren't supporting him, but they were supporting him by not supporting Batista.
Right.
And as his victory looked more and more probable, the Americans didn't want to get off on the wrong foot with him. So they're going to continue to try and see how this plays out.
Yeah.
Hoping that they will be able to reach some sort of an accommodation with Castro. At this point, they don't know. Well, at this point, he's not officially a communist.
Right.
And so there are other Latin American dictators like Trujillo, like Batista before him.
Yeah.
They think, maybe this is just another guy that we can get to come over to our camp.
Everybody's got a price.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a price.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Castro.
As it turns out, Castro did not have a price. But at this point, they didn't know that. So when it was obvious that Batista's days were numbered, they're like, all right, well, let's see what we can do with this Castro guy.
Yeah.
They thought, like every other Cuban revolutionary leader, he would bend to their will.
Yeah. I'm going to write a number on this napkin, and you tell me what you think of it. They're not going to like his response.
No. As we will see, Castro was not going to bow to anyone, not even the major superpower 90 miles offshore. But we'll talk about that in our next episode.